Welcome to this first July work period episode of Pressers by FedNet, the only podcast to exclusively feature news conferences from the United States Congress. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries held his first semi-weekly news conference on return to Washington the 13th. He criticized new funding for the Department of War, cost of living, and more before taking questions about midterm candidates, the Supreme Court, and redistricting. The following material is protected by copyright.
Good afternoon, everyone. Donald Trump promised the American people that Republicans would lower the high cost of living on day one, but costs having gone down during Donald Trump's presidency, costs have gone up. Donald Trump promised that ICE enforcement in this country would target the worst of the worst, but instead, billions of taxpayer dollars are being used by ICE to brutalize and kill American citizens and violently target law-abiding immigrant families and communities, including in Maine earlier today. Donald Trump promised that he was elected not to start wars in the Middle East, but to stop them. He then turned around along with compliant Republicans and launched a reckless and costly war of choice in Iran that's ongoing and now has been taking place for more than 100 days with over $100 billion in taxpayer money being wasted, while leaving Iran in a stronger position than they were in before the war, and the American people economically in a weaker position, particularly as it relates to high gas prices. Donald Trump and the Republican majority in the House and the Senate has been a complete and total failure. Life hasn't gotten better under Republicans in Washington, D.C. It's gotten much worse. And as House Democrats, we continue to be committed to doing the things that are necessary to drive down the high cost of living, fix our broken health care system, get ICE under control, end the reckless and costly war of choice in the Middle East, and clean up corruption in this town. Questions?
President Trump notified Congress about a new war with Iran over the weekend. Will House Democrats pursue another war powers resolution?
We have advanced multiple war powers resolutions up until this point, and we will continue to use every legislative tool available to end Donald Trump and the Republican reckless and costly war of choice in Iran.
Is litigation an option for House Democrats in trying to force any kind of action on the war powers resolutions that were previously passed?
What's in front of us right now relates to the legislative process and the appropriations process, and the notion that Republicans are prepared as early as this Wednesday to move another budget to give the so-called Department of War more than $75 billion at least to continue Operation Epic Failure in the Middle East. And I'm pretty confident that every single House Democrat will strongly oppose this effort, and the same will take place in the Senate. And what we need to do is to stop this effort, to use taxpayer dollars to continue this failed war in the Middle East that the American people have rejected from the beginning and have soured on even more over the last several months.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. The Graham Plattner over the recess dropped out of the Maine Senate race, or said he would drop out of the Maine Senate race. Your reaction to that, and are there any lessons that can be learned going forward as far as vetting candidates, no matter what seat they're running for?
I issued a statement relative to him dropping out, urging him to end his campaign immediately. That's been done, and now it's in the hands of the people of Maine to decide who will be the best Democratic nominee to flip that seat and defeat Susan Collins. at the same period of time, when it comes to our efforts in the House to flip the handful of seats that will be needed in order for us to start to end this national nightmare in the United States of America and take back control of the House, we've had incredible candidates step forward and emerge all across the country, including combat veterans, doctors, farmers, educators, smoke jumpers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, and even a Tejano music star in South Texas. We have incredible candidates all across the country, and it's one of the many reasons why I'm confident that on that first Tuesday in November, we're going to take back control of the House of Representatives.
One of those flip opportunities is Michigan's 7th District. The Congressional Black Caucus over the weekend put out a statement saying anyone supporting Will Lawrence, one of the left-wing candidates running, should denounce our support. He had hateful comments, they said. Do you agree with what the Congressional Black Caucus PAC said, and what are your thoughts on that Democratic primary?
I haven't had a conversation with the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus or the chair of the PAC, but those comments were brought to my attention, and they are deeply disturbing.
Thank you. Have you had the chance to meet with Brad Lander or any other New York progressive winners since their primaries?
Yes, I've talked to several of them, and we'll have more to say about it in the future.
Thank you. Late Senator Lindsey Graham was known for his ability to work across the aisle. But then we have Schumer, we have Pelosi, Joe Biden, Senator John McCain. And this is like all guard politicians who were able to work within the culture where bipartisan relationships were possible and often necessary. So what are your views on the state of bipartisanship today in America, and how do you intend as a leader to guard those values going forward?
Well, let me again offer our thoughts and prayers and condolences to the family of Lindsey Graham, to his friends, to his loved ones, to his Senate colleagues, and of course to his constituents. We disagreed on a whole host of issues, but he was someone who was committed to a lifetime of service. And on occasion, I think, particularly when he was closely aligned with John McCain, leaned into the importance of trying to actually get things done in a bipartisan way for the American people. In my view, House Democrats have made clear from the very beginning of this Congress that we will work with anyone, anytime, in any place in order to solve problems on behalf of the American people. The big problem that we've confronted is that Donald Trump hasn't been interested in making life better for everyday Americans. Right now, he's just focused on trying to rig the midterm elections. This is the reason why he did not sign a bipartisan housing bill on affordability into law. That bill was bipartisan and was worked on in the House, led by Maxine Waters. She did a tremendous job, in partnership with Senator Elizabeth Warren, who also did a tremendous job. And every single Democrat in the House of Representatives, from the most progressive to the most centrist and all points in between, supported that housing affordability bill, which was then sent to Donald Trump's desk, and he ignored it, threw a temper tantrum, and was uninterested in actually signing it, because Donald Trump has made clear he doesn't give a damn about making life more affordable for the American people. As House Democrats, we do. And Exhibit A is the housing affordability bill led by House and Senate Democrats in partnership with French Hill to get something important done for the American people.
Thank you, Mayor. FISA has been dark for a month now. Has there been any discussions regarding that? Anything happening, behind the scenes for getting that, getting lights back on there?
There have been no direct conversations between the Trump administration and members of House Democratic leadership. over the last several weeks in connection with surveillance authority, our position has remained clear. It is irresponsible to expect the American people to trust Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and Bill Pulte with the privacy of the American people. And under no circumstances is that in any way a logical thing to expect House or Senate Democrats to sign off on, given the repeated abuses by the Trump administration in terms of weaponizing the authority that they have within the Department of Justice, but not limited to the Department of Justice. The Trump administration at this point is just not serious about solving problems for the American people. They continue to want to jam extreme individuals and their extreme ideology down the throats of the American people. And from the perspective of House Democrats, we're just not going to go along with it. And that has been the case. We've battled them as it relates to their efforts to destroy health care in America. We've battled them as it relates to ICE brutality, and will continue to do so. We're battling them as it relates to their reckless and costly war of choice, which has been a disaster for the American people. And we're going to continue to battle them with respect to their efforts to overreach when it comes to surveillance authority and a FISA extension.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I wanted to get your reaction to the Supreme Court's term now that it's completely wrapped up. After the Calais decision, you called it illegitimate, you called it the Trump court. But in this term, the court has ruled against Trump on issues like birthright citizenship, like tariffs. Given those rulings, is it fair to call the Supreme Court, the Trump court, illegitimate? I
said that the majority, as constructed, had severe credibility problems. Let me put it politely in that fashion. And anyone paying attention to the court, the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, and unleashing Jim Crow-like tactics on black Americans, particularly in the Deep South, would understand the illegitimacy of that decision. It didn't lack any credible basis in law or in fact. And the Supreme Court then doubled down on the fact that they're completely and totally out of control in this area when a 3-judge panel, all appointed by Republican presidents in Alabama, 2 of whom appointed by Donald Trump and 1 of whom was appointed by Ronald Reagan, decided in a unanimous decision after Calais that the map that Alabama Republicans wanted to use was racially discriminatory against black folks in the state of Alabama. 3-judge panel, 2 Trump-appointed judges made that declaration, and the Supreme Court overturned it. So they have no credibility, zero, in this area. They also lack credibility as it relates to the fact that this unbridled corruption that's being unleashed on the American people, and the reason why House Democrats are committed to cleaning up corruption in the United States of America is because if you've got people in power like Donald Trump and his Republican sycophants who do nothing but bend the knee to him within the administration and here in Congress, if you've got people in power who are so focused on enriching themselves, their family members, their friends, and their donors, then they're not focused on solving problems for the American people. So we have a big problem with that on behalf of everyday Americans, which is why, as part of our affordability agenda and solving problems for the American people, we're committed to cleaning up corruption in this town. If one were to say, why are we facing such unbridled corruption by Donald Trump? In fact, the $1.8 billion slush fund for violent January 6 insurrectionists earlier today declared illegitimate by a federal judge. The whole lawsuit brought by Donald Trump was a complete and total sham and was designed to bring about a situation where they could fake a settlement, enrich people who brutally beat police officers on January 6th, and then give blanket immunity to tax investigations from the IRS for Donald Trump and his family. The whole thing is a Ponzi scheme that has now been unraveled by a federal court. But what unleashed all of this corruption, too numerous for me to mention? I would be here all day and all night and throughout the rest of the week detailing the corruption that has been unleashed on the American people. It was the Supreme Court in 2024 in the Trump v. United States decision, where 6 right-wing conservative justices on this court gave Donald Trump, as president, blanket immunity to unleash a crime wave on the American people and enrich himself. That all traces back to that Supreme Court decision in Trump v. United States. So yes, in my view, there is zero credibility in that decision as well. And look at what it has unleashed on the American people.
As we're getting closer to August recess and prime campaign season, are you going to roll out, as House Democrats, like an H.R. 1 for the new Congress, not necessarily a contract with America, but something like that? I mean, I know obviously substantively you're talking about anti-corruption, affordability, et cetera, but is there going to be like a bill that you all are going to say this is going to be Ambition 1?
Well, the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, under the leadership of Debbie Dingell, has done a great job of engaging with people all across the ideological spectrum within the House Democratic Caucus family. And it's my expectation that they will present to the caucus at some point in the next few weeks, in advance of the August district work period, about continuing to articulate an affirmative vision related to our plans as House Democrats to make life better for the American people. Thank you, everyone.
This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, Incorporated, and provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without express written permission from FedNet is prohibited. Thanks for listening to this FedNet podcast.